Looking at the Temple boat there as we switch into the crowd, the Temple boat certainly were rushed almost right off their feet there. Michigan with a very impressive charge at the end. And certainly our hats off to Michigan for making a final charge like that, making a tremendous finish for that third and final qualifying position that had already been qualified by Cal and Stanford, the 1-2 boats.
Two minutes.
Entire race.
California.
Checking on the
Stanford.
Women's Collegiate Varsity Invitational.
Washington.
This is the biggie for
Clemson.
the women in our San Diego Crew
Tennessee.
Classic. And lane number 1 is
Purdue.
Cal. Stanford in lane
Attention.
2. It will be Washington in lane 3 with
Go.
Clemson visiting from lane 4 as we've gotten a start. Lane 5 is the University of Tennessee, and Purdue will be in lane number 6.
All boats away clear from the starting boats. Right now, Stanford's your early leader in lane 2. Very, very crisp, clean starts. Not any water coming off these blades. Stanford now with a 2-seat advantage over both Cal Berkeley and the University of Washington.
Got to double up.
We're looking down the line now. It's still Stanford, your early leader. Clemson in lane 4 is making a push back into that second position. So it's definitely Stanford, your leader. Then it's too close to call right now between Clemson, Washington, and UC Berkeley. Well, Clemson shot out a little bit, and now they've fallen back, and it's Stanford University on the lead with a 4-seat advantage over UC Berkeley in lane 1. Then the Huskies from Washington are in the 3rd spot. Then it's Clemson, the Volunteers from Tennessee in lane 5, and then Purdue is in the 6th spot. Stanford now with a half a boat advantage, 4 seats. As they're developing a swing now at 34.5 strokes per minute. So here we are coming up to the 500-meter mark. The Cardinal from Stanford, your leader, followed by the Golden Bears from California, the Washington Huskies in that 3rd spot, then Clemson, Tennessee, and that 6th position belongs to Purdue.
Once again, we are on event number 9. This is the Women's Collegiate Varsity. It's the first section of 2 that we will have here. So the top 3 crews finishing will go to the grand final, and the remaining crews will go to the petite final. Looking at lane assignments once again, University of California in lane number 1. Our current leader is in lane number 2. That's Stanford. Washington is pulling out of lane 3. That's Clemson in lane 4. Tennessee works out of lane 5, and Purdue will stroke out of lane number 6.
No early season form from Washington, Stanford, or Cal in lanes 3, 2, and 1, although Stanford finished 9th at the head of the Charles behind Virginia, who are in the next heat last October. Clemson being from the southeast of the country and slightly balmier conditions, have been able to start their season a lot earlier. They've beaten Eastern Michigan, Northeastern, Syracuse, Iowa, Boston University, Purdue, Marist, and Kansas, and have had one of those rare ties with Indiana. Tennessee, in a similar position, they've raced early, and they've beaten Dayton, Alabama, and Central Florida, but gone down to Virginia and Notre Dame. And Purdue on the outside, they've beaten Marist, but in racing similar crews, they've lost to Clemson, Iowa, Indiana, Syracuse, and Boston University. So essentially this is races between the Midwestern and Southeastern crews in lanes 6, 5, and 4 who have had early season racing, and the West Coast crews of California, Stanford, and Washington, for whom this is their first regatta of the year.
Our tide is beginning to go out, and Charles, maybe make a comment on how the tide handles the boats and how they move up and down this course with lane number 1 along the shoreline.
Yeah, the tide is a factor. It's not even across the whole course. It comes in and goes out through the bridges, and in the areas where it does go out through the bridges, obviously the tide moves the water a little bit quicker. What that means is that the crews and more importantly the coxswains are having to cope with changing water conditions at different sections of the race course. Makes for a challenging race. That's where the coxswains earn the money they don't get paid.
Stanford is continuing on our lead. They are being challenged a little bit more on the outside by Washington, with Cal along the shoreline beginning to fall back just a little bit. Then we're going to go look outside where there is some separation between Clemson, with Tennessee beginning to move up, and Purdue on the far outside.
Virginia, lane 1.
Stanford getting off on the early lead here. Looks like they're beginning to be challenged just a little bit on their outside shoulder and inside shoulder. Stanford in lane number 2, the shoreline side with Cal in lane number 1.
5 minutes.
But on the outside, Washington beginning to exert themselves somewhat. And then we have some open water back to Clemson. Looks like Purdue and Tennessee on the outside pretty much going stroke for stroke.
Well, looks like Cal have had a stellar third 500 because they're coming through the 1,000 meter mark, from what we could tell from the screens. Stanford had the early lead through the first 1,000. But California have really accelerated their racing and appear to have gone past Stanford in that third 500. Stanford is still holding off Washington on the outside, but Washington are coming strong. These three crews seem to have separated themselves from Clemson, Tennessee, and Purdue in the outside lanes, although Clemson is still pushing Washington hard.
3 will move forward, and we might see just a taste of sandbagging if the beginning top 3 crews decide that they've got it in hand. However, there's a lot of competition between Cal, Stanford, and Washington, and that kind of form might just go right out the window. They decide they want to show who's boss early in the going. This is Washington in the center of our course. Looks like they have a bit of a lead now on Stanford, with Cal coming hard along the shoreline. So it doesn't look like any one of these crews, without regard to the fact that they might be already in the grand final based on their performance here, it looks like they want to show who's boss and coming on hard. The benefit of the lane assignment along the shoreline, a little bit easier row, and normally we have a higher finish along the shoreline. It is Washington in the center of our course. Stanford and Cal stroke for stroke along the finish line. It looks like Washington may pick up an unofficial victory, and then it's extremely tight between Cal and Stanford. It looks like Cal may have pushed a bow marker in front, but we'll wait for the official tally on it. That's Clemson coming across, followed by Tennessee and Purdue.
This is an absolutely stellar last 500. Coming into the last 500, Washington were the third boat in line. Cal came into it leading because of their great third 500. Washington hung in there and were able to produce an outstanding sprint finish.
Yes, indeed. It does look like Washington with Cal and Stanford in that order. Unofficially, a beautiful final charge in row. And a lot of times when crews in the top 3 positions in a 3-move forward situation, they will kind of ratchet back and not expend themselves too much. But my goodness sakes, we certainly saw those 3 crews try to decide that they're going to show who's boss and what's up all the way through to the end.